Well, hello everybody. Quick question from the audience members. Were you able to hear the audio on that intro? Just wondering because we had some technical difficulties in the last week when I played that intro sequence. But yeah, just go ahead and put that in the comment section if you could. But yeah, so today, welcome by the way, welcome to Super Soldier Talk. I'm James Rink, the host here, and today we're going to have a conversation with Olivia James. Now, Olivia was born into the programs in a family of drug traffickers where she was trauma trained with a beta tracker alter in programs such as MKULTRA, where her mind was split in order to create compartments used for missions. In Project Traveler, Dr. Green selected her to host entities which would possess her as a personal Dameon, for the elite. On Earth, she participated in corporate espionage. In space, she served in the Mars Defense Force, where she did a 20-year career return program. Today, Olivia will be sharing more about her memories, her past life connections, and how she went about healing her alters, as well as the healing that she is uh, bringing to the world. So, also, we got a link to her book, Gray Mouse, which is about the secret space program, SEX, and mind control, because we're on YouTube. So, welcome, Olivia. Welcome.
Hello, thank you.
Okay, great. So we've got a confirmation the audio is working. Thank goodness, because it's a hassle trying. Oh, anyway, I have to go, and it doesn't matter. So, where should we begin? What is there anything else you'd like to add to that bio?
No, that's about it.
Okay. Well, let's just go ahead and start from the beginning here with some of our preliminary questions we've come up with, like an introduction into these programs. So, maybe we could start with, how about this one? How about that? How are you recruited? Bloodline or genetics? Bloodline,
I'm
genetic,
gonna
family.
I'm gonna mix it with both. I'm gonna mix it with the first question and that question, in terms of introduction. So I'm gonna start from the beginning. I had very interesting parents. Um, when my father was in the military. He worked in intelligence. He was stationed in Germany. He spoke German. He was a code breaker and also a translator because he spoke German. When he returned from the military, he was quite young and he got involved into major drug trafficking with some of the cartels in Mexico. So he also used my mother. My mother participated in this with him. She helped him smuggle drugs across the border, as well as they completed their money laundering. She was the head of that. She would do that work. And so they used various ways to get drugs across the border. And if anybody knows anything, this was in the 60s and 70s. So if anybody's done any research on this and how they were able to do that, there was a lot of three-letter agencies possibly involved in order to make this kind of thing happen. Because from what I was always told, that they felt like it was the smoothest operation they'd ever seen. Like nobody could take them down. They did everything perfect. They were making money, sometimes upwards of $50,000 a day, with their, heroin and marijuana. So they were doing that. My father could fly a plane. Sometimes he would take a boat. Sometimes they would drive across the border. They had different ways they could get this, moving. And he started to be, very rich, um, I want to say very ego driven, very arrogant, thinking because they thought they were getting away with this because, nothing was happening. Everything was going so smooth. They would even use the bus system. I know my mom would use the bus system. She would tape it to her stomach and just come across the border like that. And she felt like she was never detected because they were just that good. But there's also research that, that bus system was also connected to some different agencies who allowed that to happen in order to get these different drugs into the country and get it into the country smoothly.
And they probably got financial kickbacks too to look the other
Yeah,
way.
yeah, because I was told that, they would be stopped by border patrol. Border patrol would come on the bus, they would take a look around and just walk off. Literally be sitting there with tons of drugs strapped to them and not a word, nothing ever happened to them. Um, I know I was always told that they did this for quite a while and they were doing really well until my father became addicted to his own product. And this is where the problems came in, into where he became a threat to this operation, as he was missing pickups and drop-offs and kind of getting caught up in more of the lifestyle than the actual work that he was supposed to be doing. He got caught up in the lifestyle and trying to be some type of, live up to this persona that he thought he was. And there was always other people trying to take things away from them, because people knew that they had money and power and they wanted to take it from them. So once he got addicted to his own product, everything went downhill, and they started to have problems where they were being raided by the local police, but nothing ever happened. It was more of a threat than anything. They never were taken to jail or anything. And he continued to, just kind of go down. Everything went downhill after that. When he became extremely addicted to that, everything just went downhill. So when he started to mess up that bad, where he was jeopardizing everyone's safety and the product, the program, everything, he was they were rated a final time. And from what I was told, that he took like a pretty good beating in order for my mom to dump everything that they had in the house, which I don't know how that is even possible, because they always boasted about how much they had in the house at all times. So I don't even know how that's possible. But he went through a very public trial, and you know he was in the newspapers. I remember seeing news clippings of him, artist renderings of him, and it was big, huge deal, talk of the town kind of thing. And they were never afraid. I don't remember her saying she was afraid. My mom said that she knew that he could get out of it, and he was just really good at it. But nobody's that good. So in the end, this trial went on for a really long time, and it came to be that they just dropped all the charges. No matter what they had, and no matter what evidence they had, they just decided that, they said that they had the wrong person after all. So the everything was dismissed, and right after that, he was able to get a very cushy social work type job, like literally within weeks. So they hired somebody that was a known drug trafficker and a known addict for a position that, it's unheard of. It's not really something that can
And
happen.
what was his field of practice in social working?
I'd rather not say. Um,
Okay.
it's it was yeah. I'd rather not say.
Is he still
Um,
alive?
no, he's passed.
Okay.
He passed away several years ago. Took his secrets with him. But after this, after this happened, um, this is how I became introduced into the programs. Because in order for him to not serve the rest of his life in prison, he had to give up something. And in that, he signed me over and allowed them to take me into the program and, use me for whatever they wanted. And in his mind, he thought that he saved everyone, because they had several children. He saved everyone by doing this. It was just one of me. And he thought that whenever I went anywhere and then I came back, that I looked okay. I didn't look hurt. I didn't cry. I didn't complain. So he didn't know that what was happening to me, really. He thinks that he knew a little, but he didn't know everything. So that's how I got introduced into the program, is he saved his own ass by letting them torture me, so, and he kept that distance from me his whole life. He, with all my other siblings, he had a very close connected relationship, and with me, he could barely look at me. He couldn't be around me because of the guilt that he had for doing that, by
Hmm.
thinking that he could save himself from prison by allowing them to take me. So I'm going to move into like where I went when I was
Yeah.
signed up. I think I was about, from my recollection, I want to say, I'm guessing 6 or 7, just by the way I look. Um, and when I was in school, they had me in some little bit of, like, I don't want to say slower classes, but classes where I wasn't as advanced as, or they thought I wasn't as advanced as some of the other students, because I didn't talk a lot. Um, Once I did some testing, they saw that I was way more advanced than the other students, and that's all I remember from. And I remember being changed to a different class right away. And I do remember my father taking me to have some type of testing. He said that I was going to be going to a special school. So he took me and I sat in the room, and there was an older gentleman. It looks like, I don't know, maybe a psychiatrist or something, dressed in a suit, and he was just sitting in a chair. Very nice, but they really didn't have me take any math or reading or anything like that. It was all puzzle work. It was more, and it was very simple puzzles. I don't even think they were testing me. I think they just wanted to observe me and observe my behavior. So I didn't end up going to any special school. I know that. And my mom doesn't remember me being taken to that. She says she doesn't know about that and didn't remember me being taken to any testing. But I was involved in a lot of these like extracurricular school activities because of my academic success, spelling bees, reading tournaments, math tournaments. But and a lot of these times I wasn't even at these tournaments. I was doing other things. I did go away to a psychiatric hospital, and I don't remember how they wouldn't know that, or wouldn't remember me being gone for that long. But with the way their parenting style was, I'm not shocked that they let me be gone for 6 months or to 8 months. Almost 6 to 8 months is where I was. But I
At
was
what age?
at 7.
Wow.
Yeah, and I asked my mother recently if she remembers me ever leaving or being gone, at night or anything, and she says maybe. She doesn't know. So, I mean, to me,
So they
that's
probably mess with her memories too.
I'm not. It's a strange answer to say you don't know where your 7-year-old is. So when I was at this psychiatric hospital, which is it's closed down now. I'd rather not give the name, but it was just me and one other kid, male. His name was Jacob, and we were the only two children on this unit, and it was a special unit. So this psychiatric hospital was huge, self-sustained type place, so they had a lot of privacy. And the lead psychiatrist was a female, actually. It was an older woman with white hair. And she always looked very well dressed, very put together, and she always seemed like kind of like otherworldly to me just by her presence, because that's not the type of people I grew up with. So I just found her kind of mesmerizing when she walked around and things like that. We were in a special sector of the hospital, and we were always in this place called the playroom. So that always sticks in my mind. We I recognize the playroom as being something very scary. So that's a place where a lot of these activities took place. um they were doing something called like systematic torture. So they would be changing in order to split our minds and program us and move us into an ability to dissociate pretty regularly. They were moving into different types of abusive activities, probably every 15 to 20 minutes. I want to say 20 minutes. And it's almost like an experiment where you can anticipate the next torturous activity. They would use a lot of slapping, a lot of punching. Um, they would, and also emotional manipulation, because they would, be nice to you after doing this, and you felt okay for a second, and then all of a sudden they would hit you. Or they wouldn't give us any food, they wouldn't give us any water, and then all of a sudden they will offer you a sandwich, but it was made with like human waste. So, and if you didn't eat the sandwich, they would beat you. So you had to kind of do what they said, and or else you were going to get hurt. But and then in the middle, in between all of this, they were showing like cartoons, but then they would show videos of somebody getting run over by a car. I remember that one. So the playroom was very much not what they what we thought of as a playroom. Was a very scary place for me and this other boy. But because of the systematic way that they tortured us, we became, we were able to anticipate some of these activities. And that's what they wanted. They wanted us to stop showing any response or any reaction of pain or fear to anything. This is how they're programming assets. So where if you're in a mission type situation, like you won't react to pain, you won't react to fear, you won't do that. And they're teaching us very early by using this torturous method. So while they're doing this pretty regularly, this systematic torture, they're also using different experiments. With the psychiatrist, she's doing different experiments like with LSD and electroshock therapy, not therapy, but electroshock. And they're trying to figure out something called syncopated dissociation. And I don't know why they call it that, but what they wanted is for me and Jacob to be able to dissociate at the same time, in order to and they want to monitor that and see what happens when if that ability, if there is an ability, if we can do it right at the same time. Because when we were being tortured, we both were slipping out of our bodies. The body was in so much fear of the pain of what these people were doing to us. Like our spirits would kind of, float out. It's almost like we could see ourselves outside of our bodies while these things were happening to us. When I would see Jacob, he could move like a flash because he wasn't in his body. I could see him sitting on top of a dresser, and then within a flash, a second, he'd be underneath the table and his eyes would kind of look different, like glowing. It wasn't, his physical body. And that's exactly what they wanted. This just, you know, the way they went about it was to torture it out of us pretty much.
Oh wow. Well,
So,
I've
oh, go
got a
ahead.
few questions.
Yeah.
Did they ever force you to watch TV shows, maybe black and white TV shows for a long period of time? Father's Knows Best, I Love Lucy, anything like that?
No,
Okay,
it was the cartoons, these
cartoons.
old black and white cartoons with devils and demons, but then people getting hit by cars. That's what I remember, seeing somebody getting hit by a car, which I was like, "Whoa." As a little
O
kid, it was very scary.
okay. Do you recall, any instances where they would, like, tie you down to a bed with these cloth straps?
They tied us up, but it was, ropes, and it was from a ceiling, and it was more for, sexual manipulation of the body. They use those ropes at the same time they sexually stimulate you. So, and I have a fear of heights. So the double trauma that can, push on a child is very sealing to the program of what they wanted to instill in me. The most terror you can experience. So that's how they were creating so many different altars. 118 just in me. I don't know how many Jacob had, but from this program, only in 8 months, they made
Well,
118 altars.
okay, well, let's comment more about that just a bit, but can you go back to,
Mhm.
did they ever make you sit in a cage with animals in there to twin with the animal? Like an
I
ibis? Project Ibis was doing that.
I only remember that I'm terrified of mice. I will run, scream, hide, climb walls to get away from a tiny little mouse. I cannot handle it. It's
Oh,
a
okay.
it's a severe phobia. So I remember being in a cage, but I don't remember them putting an animal in there. I
Okay,
can't say for sure I
so
remember that.
in this, I'm guessing Monarch training sp facility, did, um did you ever see any NAZI paraphernalia on the walls, or did they ever make you do, like, these training exercises where you would do combat with the other kids in there?
No. No,
Okay.
it wasn't a we weren't involved in that. Um, we were gonna be we were chosen for special programs. That's why it was only 2 of us there.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I was gonna describe the psychiatrist, she would take us into, um in her office, and that's where she was doing some of her hypnosis activities. And this is where we both learned how to be easily put into a trance state or under, like, the deepest level of hypnosis. And I remember that she had pushed us so far deep that if I opened my eyes, all the area around her, it didn't even look like it was in the same reality as the where she was sitting physically. It had the energy around her had changed, like the entire, you know, whatever was around her. It was the strangest thing, and I didn't feel afraid. Actually, I feel more comfortable, kind of like under trance, than I did being in my physical body because of, what they were doing to us, the torture and the, sexual torture, and then these different, chemicals and shocking, and then also the hypnosis. It was all tied together to create these altars and, almost like perfect assets. We didn't complain, we didn't cry, and that's what they considered a success. When we stopped crying, we didn't cry for anything, we didn't want for anything, we didn't need food, we didn't need water, we didn't need anything, and that's why they considered us success.
Wow, wow. Yeah, so here's a comment from a Facebook user. They probably were torturing you, the mice for I'm seeing eating on your feet, but we don't really need to go into details on that. Thank you, Jojo. Okay, so What were your abilities um, as a, I guess, a super soldier as they were training you? Did you have did you have these abilities naturally before you went through the trauma, or is this something that came from it? And I would, yeah.
I guess it's connected. Um, I guess they're latent abilities, but because I wouldn't have been able to be trained and identified as being trained for these if it wasn't something that was inside me. So I'm going to continue after I completed, the Monarch training and I was able to get through that. I went my separate way from Jacob. I never saw him again, but I started doing Monarch type jobs for them. My dad would kind of lead me out to the back door, and there would be a car that would pick me up, and I know that I had to do what I think they think it was just sexual type activities, with these older men, but actually, it was always a second meaning, and it was because I was a recorder. One of my alters had a photographic memory, and I could record everything. Anything that I could pick up with my ears, it was going to be recorded. So, and especially because I can go so deep within hypnosis and in trance that they can anybody the if I needed to be brief, they could access that information really easily because it's stored in my memory in my subconscious. So that was something that they used me for several years doing
Hmm.
that.
Did they ever scar your brain stem to enhance your photographic memory?
Not that I can remember. I remember there was a flash of something where needles were in my spine, but I don't know what that was for.
Okay, you might as well not even think about that right now. So what were your okay? You already okay.
Yeah,
Some of
let
your
me go
abilities
into
were
that.
dissociation. Okay, go. Did
Let
you
me
have
go
any
into the
other? Okay,
Yeah.
go
Okay.
ahead.
So after I got done with some of the Monarch jobs, when I was 13, I actually had to go to the moon. On the fourth level, they had a special, almost like a training school, and it was for psionics. So when I went to this class on the moon, it was I think a few months maybe. But what they were trying to train me for was personality profiling. That's what I had been identified as, being sensitive to or being able to have an ability of personality profiling. And the instructor there, she wasn't used to having very young students. She didn't train younger students for some of the stuff that I was going to be doing. But she kind of had to take me because there was something in my file that showed some type of importance or that I was already completely programmed. She had to take me on. And she was very stern, very strict about her instruction, but it was because she knew that I was small and she wanted me to be able to be good at this, and because she knew that I was going to be involved in some dangerous situations and I had to be quick. And she always told me that I had to be so fast that it had to be in one look and one word. I had to be that fast and I had to know what somebody was about, what they were thinking, if there was a risk in the situation. That's how quick you had to be in order to, complete your mission and be safe and get back to your mark. So that was one ability that they trained me to do, is personality profiling. Around the same, I want to
Hold on a second.
yes.
Can you define what personality profiling is in your own words?
It's when I so if I'm around a person, sometimes they don't even have to talk. It's just by the way they breathe, by the way they sit, by the way you kind of can figure out what type of person they are. Will they be, are they in fear? Do they have a disorder? Are they scared? Are they angry? Are they going to be a threat to you? A lot of it is threat based. These are like a lot of risk assessments that we're doing in order to, be safe in the type of situations that I was in.
Oh, okay, okay, go ahead. Oh,
So,
by the way, so this was probably in the late '80s. I'm not
mhm.
going to give out your age, but is that a safe
Mid
assumption?
80s. I wanna say mid 80s for the moon.
Okay. Um, so I mean, for people who don't really know about the secret space program, can you tell people how you actually got there? I mean, I don't think you went up on a rocket ship from NASA.
No,
Okay, so
it
tell us.
was, all I remember was, a man in a really nice suit. He was holding my hand, he took me on a train, and I ended up on the 4th floor of this, and there was, like, a dorm room, and I wasn't afraid of anybody there. I didn't feel, like, in fear of them. This was not that type of situation. It was
So the train went through a portal, probably.
I'm not sure. All I remember is getting on a
Okay.
train and being at the classroom, walking down the hall to the classroom and seeing
Okay.
all the other students in the classroom who were a lot older than me.
Okay. Here's a question from Hanny. Have you ever had any psionic training at psionic with your certain targets at someone on Earth? I guess did you ever try to become like an astral assassin?
Um, Psychic assassin. They were hoping that I was gonna be good at that, and I wasn't. Um, I'm more of a what they call like a receiver. So I I draw the energy in. Psychic assassins more throw their energy out. So they have
Okay.
to be more like an expeller of energy in order for that. I'm a receiver.
Are you
So they
familiar?
did try that, but I wasn't good at it.
Are you familiar with the term informationer?
Information or no?
Okay. In Kruger, they would have somebody always back in the facility who were psychically connected to the ground support, and that they would be tasked with providing them information on where to go and so on. But I know in private we've actually discussed that you were part of Kruger, but I guess this particular group doesn't sound like Kruger. What they're on the moon anyway.
Yeah, and I don't. I remember the general's name, but I don't know what. I just know it was a training for training,
Can you
and
describe what the facility looked like on the moon?
I only remember the classroom, and it was just a darker kind of like it looked like a kind of like a rundown kind of classroom. I wouldn't say it was a modern looking classroom like you would see in a college today, but this was also like in the 80s. So it was just and there was no windows. It's just all like kind of like brick and white brick. And we just sat at desks and there was some other students but they had weird abilities that wouldn't I don't even see how they could be used. Like somebody could create excessive moisture in their body. They considered that an ability, and somebody else was, talking to animals and things like that. These are kind of like those offshoot abilities that they were training us for
Mm.
as a special. These
Wh-
are like special sector types.
what about shape shifting?
I didn't see anybody doing that.
Okay, okay. Do you know the name of the group at this point that's doing this to you? You think this might be ICC?
I don't know. I don't know who it was that
I mean, were
wanted.
they German? Were they German speaking?
No.
They were English. They spoke English.
Yeah.
They looked American.
But this is where I'm going to get into Project Traveler because
Well,
it
I
was
mean,
right around the same
no,
time.
it's not that I say they look American, but they have like the Caucasian type look. But okay, so because
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be okay. The point. Let me go on here. So what happens next? So you're going through
Yeah.
this training scenario. I'm guessing you passed. You pleased your handlers at that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I was successful in becoming what they wanted to be, but at right around a similar time, I was identified by a particular doctor, um somebody named Dr. Green, and so he was in like I taken back to I don't know if it was the same psychiatric hospital, but I was taken back to some sort of like office building, and he was this very like frail elderly gentleman with a very slight beard, balding, and he had really small little round wire rimmed glasses, um and very thin, and he didn't seem like physically like scary. That wasn't what was scary about him, but just his energy. It's almost like being in a cage with a tiger. Like I couldn't tell what this guy was about. He was so strange to me, and being a personality profiler, it was so strange not to be able to catch on to what his energy was about. He was a very interesting person, but what he did, he identified me for a program called Project Traveler. And when I was in his office, he brought two people into the office to see me. And they were a brother and sister, and they were both had some type of albino condition. And you know, they didn't speak really. They I don't know, they didn't really say anything to me, but he kind of motioned for them to kind of get closer to me. He motioned over to them, and I didn't run away or anything. I didn't feel fear, but they kind of like grabbed me and they like opened my mouth and they were like looking in my eyes and looking down my throat, things like that. And they talked to Dr. Green and they said, we can see it, we can see the thing inside her. And that's what they thought that they could see. They thought it was an attachment, but that's where they were considered to be wrong. I didn't have an attachment inside me. What they were like kind of connecting to is a past life or parallel life, however you describe it, that when I was an entity, they saw that I had that inside me still because, I feel like I'm still all my lives are still with me, inside me. So that's what they recruited me for, is to be in this particular program. And they did various things before they kind of set me up to be almost like in a catalog. They had they had for Monarch Solutions, they had a catalog where somebody could order time with me and take me, to their home and, use me for to be a host and a vessel. And I don't call it channeling, I call it hosting, because you can take an entity can go inside your body and remain in there, and I don't feel any pain from it. I don't even feel any threat from it happening, and then when it's over, I don't have any emotional physical damage from it. So they kind of feel like it's an ability, so they kind of like fostered that development of that in me. They had me work with something I call a witchery. It's a group of people that they were kind of really involved in some of these old ancient type ways of how to bring forth, like chaos in your body and your energy, within your portal, because Dr. Green said I was one of the portal people. And when I was a kid, I didn't know what that meant. I know I felt different, and I know I felt different from, other kids, but I didn't know what a portal person was. So he, um, like I said, they had me
Well,
train with
wait,
somebody
hold on a
called,
second. Can you
yes,
define it in your own words? How would you define yourself as a portal person?
because my portal's within. I don't need any type of doorway for these entities to walk through. I am the doorway.
Can you also teleport as well, or is this just entities?
Um, you mean like when I can go to other place? I can, under a trance, I can, remote view, that kind of thing. But
Okay.
I wouldn't say teleport. I don't know if that's the right term for it. I probably would think of it more as remote viewing or using like a
o-
ghost dimension almost,
Okay.
because
And is that where these entities would come in? These Dameons
they're
would attack
well,
you? Okay.
that's the old word they use. They say daemon. That's just how they pronounce it. It must have been something that they used before. Um, they feel some kinship with me, and that's why they can detect me almost in a way, because they feel like I'm still kind of like one of them. They think that I'm always going to be one of them. If anybody's ever taken a dark role, they feel like you're still part of their kind of kinship role. So, and I feel like I don't know how they identified me, but they probably, just like they're looking for light beings, they're looking for dark beings too. They are actually targeting, possessed children or children that were like me. They're looking for these types of kids because they can use them. There's a lot of power they feel behind like the darkness. They feel like there's a lot of power behind that, and they can, kind of harness that power. I know when they were trying to kind of do like study and research on what actually happened when it was inside my body, they would take me into like almost like a small lab, and they would have me sit in a chair, and I would just sit there, and they would like monitor me. And I know they put kind of like they had me kind of put a cloth over my eyes just to make me comfortable, and I could sit there for days without eating, without drinking, because the entity somehow sustained your body. You didn't have to have any of that. And they would actually have to put an IV in me after a couple days because I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't drink, I didn't need anything. And they were trying to measure like some of the energy output, and they think part of it is electrical for some reason. So they're trying to figure that out, and they have figured it out. I know they have it kind of graphed out in a lot of different places, and certain places have names like sector B. I know there's one part of the Midwest that's called sector B. So if there's any type of entity activity there, it's measurable by electrical output somehow.
Okay. Let's back up again. Got lots of questions. Um, Dr. Green, can you confirm, is that Joseph Mengele?
Some people say that. I know him as Dr. Green.
Okay. Did he speak in a German accent?
I can't remember his voice very well.
Okay.
I know he did come to my house once though, to the back door.
Years ago, Max Spears told me that he remembers I think he said he was sitting down for something to eat, and Dr. Green, or rather Joseph Mengele, turned into a white Draco. Did you ever witness this Dr. Green shape shifting into a reptilian or Draco?
No,
Okay. You also mentioned that you were at Monarch. So, did you ever interact with any of the big wigs there, like Paul Serene?
no,
Okay.
not that I can remember.
Okay. So, what makes you think that you were at Monarch? Did you actually did was there somebody there that told you you're on Monarch, or is just what do you think?
Well, it's for me, it's something I discovered through my own research, hypnosis, and even when I was so after I was used or identified in Project Traveler, some of these, I want to say I call them families, but there's these groups of people that would hire me through Monarch Solutions. They hired me through that, and because I was involved into one of their offshoot programs, which is an occult program, and they made a lot of money off this. It's not. It was for money. It wasn't just for experiments. This is for money. They're making money off some of this. It's quite a bit of money.
Well,
Um,
well, did they pay you? Did they
no,
promise you anything?
no. But I was treated well when I went to the houses because they wouldn't treat me badly if they're going to be using me to, convene with their god or whatever. So
So,
when I would go to their they would hire me, but actually it would be like usually it would be like an attorney or somebody that works for them would kind of set it up through their catalog, and they would hire me, and I would arrive at the house, and sometimes I'd be there for a couple days, or the longest I think I've ever was there was 2 weeks. And so I remember one of the times, I was treated very well. I just kind of just laid back and relaxed and waited for when they wanted me to do, be a host. So, I mean, they did a lot of theatrics, like a lot of like ritual things, which is not even needed for this because I don't need any theatrics to do that. It just happens. I can just do it. And so I noticed they did a lot of theatrics and a lot of, different books and rituals and things that's just not needed. But in their eyes, they think they're doing what their God wants because they connected to this family connected to this particular entity way back. I think it was in the 1500s. So it's an ancestral deity kind of thing. It's an ancestral familiar spirit. So they connected with this entity, and they feel, and it has been brought down through the line. So they continue these activities and these rituals because they feel like this entity is sustaining them in their position and financially, in all different areas of their life. They feel like if they make him happy, then they'll continue to be successful. The particular one that I remember was this entity called Bacchus, and this was who they felt like was their god. And so when Bacchus came through to me, I I only remember that when they wanted to eat dinner with me. So they had me walk over to the table, and I remember being not feeling like the steps were so heavy. Like I couldn't recognize the steps because I'm not used to walking around when I'm hosting. I'm used to laying down. So they wanted me to walk around, they wanted me to eat dinner, and I was eating like an animal, and they were just so happy to be sitting there staring at me eating because they knew like what was inside me. And some of these groups are also like having sexual activity with these people that are hosts. There was another gentleman there with me that was an asset that was also a host too. So it wasn't just me. There's quite a few of us. It's just an offshoot project, the project that they don't talk about, you know because people are going to be afraid, or they're going to think it's a religious thing, and I'm not religious. So I didn't feel that.
all right, let's back up a little bit.
Hmm.
Got some questions. Do you know how much it would have cost? Not that anyone here is interested, but what were they charging to rent you out?
I think it was like $20,000 for a couple days. That's just the first number. I think it's 20 grand.
Okay. And do you know how many people Monarch had that were involved in this Project Traveler doing this activity?
I know it was a small program, but I remember seeing what if I went to a house, they could order more than one person because sometimes they wanted sexual activity to be
Mm.
happening. So they would, because somebody wanted to have sex with a demon, and that's the closest they could get to doing it. So
Well, Okay. When these beans would take you over, would you totally black out?
It's like hypnosis. You black out, but you're aware. But I don't feel stressed out because I feel like I'm in like a warm, soft, dark place. I don't feel like, it's a total deepest level of hypnosis you can be in. I
Okay.
don't feel
So,
any stress.
so how come these entities haven't like worked their way into your spine and taken over your I guess your whole soul?
They don't need to. I'm part of their legion, their family, so supposedly they think that they're still connected to me anyway. They don't need to take over me. I used to be one of them. So they don't need to do that to me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Wow. So when these demons take you over, um what are they like? Are they, I
Um
guess why don't you just tell me?
yeah, all different personalities. Some they're very manipulative. So, well, I'll explain how I was when I was one. And it was very in ancient times. And what I thought I was doing was being darkness for somebody because I thought that's what they wanted. I thought I was helping somebody by being that darkest thing they could think of, the thing that they feared. And I also felt like people were calling me. I called it a heart call because I felt like, and if believe it or not, people do call these things to them. And a lot of times, some people unknowingly do it. They don't know they're doing it, and sometimes they do. And they call this to them. And that's how we are able to get into this realm by invitation. And a lot of the daemons, when they speak, they always say, "I'm here by invitation." Because if you show any interest in something like this, it's an invitation for them. And they're ready, they're willing to come over and talk to, and do whatever people want because they feel like they're in a position where they feel like they're almost dying without their followers. And there's still quite a few people that follow these entities. So, and some of these are so ancient, they're ancient names. So, like I said, some are they come through as being very manipulative, but some can try to be playful. Some can try to be, scary. Some try to, make you afraid of them, but it's all manipulation. It's all to try to get you to do what they ultimately want you to do. And if you ever hear this phrase, "let me in," that's them. They're waiting for you to say yes and okay to let me in. And they think that they're helping people by taking, they think you want a break from your life, we'll come over and take and live for you and totally destroy your life, because that's what they'll do. That's what we're meant to do, is we can get inside you, creep inside you, and, affect your thinking. We don't do a lot of physical things like in the movies. That's not like what it is. It's a lot of emotional and mental manipulation into making the person do things either to themselves or to try to destroy their own lives.
Okay, I got some more questions for you. Um what are when these beans are interacting with these rich pricks, are they okay with them summoning them? I mean, or do they like look badly on these people?
What can you explain that more?
Like these daemons. So when they're interacting with these rich families, do they want to be there? I guess you say they're lonely, so they probably like it. Being
I
summoned.
guess I wouldn't necessarily call them lonely. I guess I would call them ready. And they're very arrogant, so they feel this is their birthright. This is kind of what they're meant to be. They feel, because in a lot of these entities in in the old times or ancient times, were worshipped just like Bacchus. He's related to Dionysus, the god of wine. And he says, "That's not me. I'm the god of sex and lust and destruction and death." And he doesn't like that kind of like symbolic making, pushing him into somebody that's just a god of wine. These are very ancient terms and very ancient, and they feel like they're dying. They said if they don't have followers, you're going to see the death of a god, because they can't maintain themselves in this dimension without people following in them, without believing in them. And they said, if you want to make us live again, just to believe in them.
Well, there's this TV show called American Gods. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
Um, it's describes a scenario just like what you're suggesting. So it almost seems like that's perhaps a documentary, not, but you should go check that one out. Um, Okay, another question. Can you tell us some of the names of some of these rich people you serviced? Were they anyone famous? Politicians, actors, actresses? Were
Um,
anybody we might know?
I know names, but I'd rather not say their name.
Okay. Okay.
It wasn't not to my knowledge. It wasn't anybody famous.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. I guess. Okay. Actually, here's a good question. I wanted to bring this up from the chat. This is actually from Sean. This is going back to Mangala, or Dr. Green rather. Did he have a gap in his front teeth?
I can't remember.
Okay, there you go.
I know he's very thin, very frail, so elderly,
Okay,
very elderly type gentleman.
okay, all right. Well, is there anything else from Project Trap? Let me ask. I'll see. Check the audience members here. Anybody want to ask anything else? Let's see here. Everyone should lock up their golden cord. Okay, we've got. Can you read the? Oh, here we. Can you read the entity's thoughts when you are the host?
Yes.
Okay, and most of these entities were not probably not that good, is what you're saying.
I guess it depends on your perspective, because then I would think of myself as a bad person, and I'm not.
Okay.
We all a lot of us have taken a dark role at some point, and this is their turn, and they took a dark role. And
Okay.
whoever, that's in my perspective, because I can't say that about myself because I used to be one of them.
Did any of these entities require a sacrifice?
They don't require it, but people do it, and they don't do it often because it costs $250,000.
What do you mean?
They
Why
can
would it?
order it. They can order it. It's part of the service for Monarch.
So this is probably a human involved in this ritual.
Oh yeah, they could order it, but they don't do it
Wow.
often, and they don't recommend. Their family's attorneys don't recommend they do that because it's too risky. It's very expensive, and it really isn't needed by the entity. They just think it's funny that they like that this family would give up so much, for something like that. It's almost, they don't care about the actual blood. They care about the reverence involved in it, in the devotion.
Wow. Okay. Well, shall we move on?
Sure.
Okay.
I did want to say one more thing about the
Yeah.
traveler. If
Go ahead.
anybody, because I know that you can push these entities away so easily. Just tell them to get away from you, and you don't allow them in your space, because anybody could have done that to me when I was an entity, and it would feel like somebody throwing like a huge energy ball at you. You did back up. They did push you back. So if anybody has any issues with anything like this that they don't want around, tell them to get away from you. Don't be afraid.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. So I guess here's a good one from Detroiter. What were the entity's thoughts?
A lot of filth. They're everything that you think is in the dark side. It's all rage, it's all red, it's all blood, and they want to be, they feel like that's their job, is to be darkness. That's their job. They say this is what one actually said: it's my fucking job to be this. That's one of the entities actually said that. When I hosted him recently, he actually said that. It's my job. And I hosted a few other entities recently in a session I had a few weeks ago. And one was, this is really interesting because I see this portrayed as such a kind of like a heavenly character. They came in like a group. It was Bacchus, Astaroth, Bel, and Isis. And a lot of people see some of these names as being like heavenly characters. And what I've seen from when I hosted them and when they were inside me and I was inside them, they said that thank you. They want to thank us for destroying some of our ability to protect ourselves from them, because we've blown up a lot of pieces in our own universe where they can come and go more freely. So they wanted to thank us for doing that, and they said that they're coming to take the world because we're the invaders here. They were here first. Darkness was here first, and they are coming back to take the world. And like I said, I've seen some of these names like Isis and things that are people thinking they're like these beautiful creatures, and she calls herself an angel of darkness. So it's just something to think about when we're thinking of, these entities that are presenting themselves as something other than probably what they are.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I recently had some communication with Isis. She handed me a gift, but in astral, but it's So I don't want to go into that too much, but yeah, I guess
Yeah,
I'll
watch
keep
out for
that.
that one.
I'll keep that in mind next
Actually,
time.
Astaroth said, "Watch out for my sister." She
Okay.
even said, "Be careful," and she's a dark entity herself.
Yeah. Okay. So we got are you actively currently being used with Kruger?
The last time I remember was about 12 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
I can get into that later.
Yeah. Did I ask you were you cloned at? I think I did.
I don't remember being cloned.
Yeah.
I can't
Okay.
say for sure, but I haven't had a memory of that. I
Okay.
guess I'm gonna pick up right after when I was taken to Mars. I'll pick up at age 19.
So the Mars Defense Force
Yeah.
timeline here. Okay.
So, well, I did a lot of well, there was a couple of different things I was doing. I was doing something called beta tracking, in my later kind of teens, and I was really good at that. Beta tracking is where they send you on jobs to find a mark, infiltrate that mark's life, and either, you know, obtain information, steal it, or change it. That's kind of what they want us to do. So you're doing a lot of recording when you're in these situations, and you're following, the directions of what they want you to, do to that person. And a lot of times it would be just getting the information and leaving. It just depends on what they need. So according to them, I was promoted. They said for a job well done is what they exactly said. I was given a promotion, and I was moved into Mars Defense Force on Mars, into a corporate type administration position where I was doing human resources work, which is actually just a lot of paperwork. So I had an office there. Um, from what I remember, this base is called McCreary Base. It's in the South Canal region. We called it Central McCreary. That's all I can remember. I don't know if that's real or not, but that's from my perspective. That's what I remember it
And,
being called.
and where is the South Canal region on Mars?
I'm not sure. I just know it's called South Canal region.
Okay. And I'm assuming it's all in a bunker underground,
I
right?
I I don't know if it. I don't know. I just know. Well, yeah, but I don't know if South Canal is a particular area. I just think it's a particular area
Do you
of
think it's in the
the planet.
southern hemisphere?
It could be. It
Yeah.
could be. I just
Okay.
know that's what it was called. So when I went there, um, I really was in. I was pushed really far deep because I was mainly doing personality profiling. So all of my personality, myself or my whole self, was pushed down really far. Like I was almost like a robot. I didn't talk. I didn't Not a lot of interaction with other people because I had to push that so far deep to be good at that position, because that's what I was doing all day, meeting with people that were coming into the base, like assigning them to different jobs, to making sure that they would be good at certain jobs. You couldn't just put, and a lot of these were just jobs around the base. We had mining. I know there was waste management, water treatment, agriculture, s then just some regular jobs around the base. We had to figure out who was gonna go where. I didn't work in a lot of what you would say super soldiers or some of those special sectors. I wasn't in that region. I was doing more of the main base work. But they would come in and I would ask him like a series of questions. And the questions aren't really the focus. I wasn't trying to get answers. It was more to observe the person, because that's how I got my answers. It's just by observing their whole body structure and their emotions on their face, everything. You can even tell somebody's personality just by the shake of a hand, any little movement in their body. So, and once I would make a recommendation based on what I observed, and I would send it up, and they just signed off on it, and that person was transferred to that department. Sometimes somebody would come in and you could almost detect maybe a little bit of ability. I know sometimes somebody came in and they were obviously a telepath, because I could hear them in my head. So I would have to do a referral for them to be sent out somewhere else to be monitored or, assessed, because they were probably meant for something else if they came in and they had that. But I was doing that. I was doing that for quite a long time. Um, and I was really good at it. But you know what? Everybody hated me because I was really cold. I was like, nobody liked me. Nobody talked to me. I wasn't in those big groups like a lot of assets called those big, large military groups where they're fighting, huge races of people or something. I wasn't involved in that. I was, on the base, and nobody would talk to me. So I try to do, one time I tried to do something that I hoped like, maybe would get me a little favor from people. They were hosting these entertainment type weekends. for some of the colonists there, and it was like for show. It was like sword fighting, and so these females, we would sword fight each other, and it was to the death, but you could get a prize at the end. So a lot of us who were doing this work, some of the other girls, they were asking for like, luxury items, whatever. And I always wanted the dinner. They were offering like earth food, like a steak dinner, steak and baked potato. So we were like risking our lives for these small little gifts, to get something. And I know I didn't win every time. I know one time I had my throat sliced, but I remember being back in my bed the next day. So,
So they're
but
putting you probably in the med bed. Where you're
maybe
getting
I
paid.
don't know. I just remember being back, but I don't remember being afraid either. So, in terms of knowing that, things could be fixed, I know I had that knowledge because I also worked in like a what I called like a satellite station. It was a medical satellite station, and I did kind of like the same thing I was doing like on Mars, like a kind of like paper pushing, administration type, social work type stuff, like a medical social work, because some of the individuals working on the medical satellite station weren't human, and that made some of the assets uneasy. Or soldiers, when they came there, it made them uneasy to be consenting to some type of medical procedure, and sometimes there were augments without, from somebody that wasn't human. So they would have me go in and try to like kind of, you know relate to them, calm them down, make sure we got the consent. A lot of it is about consent for my job, like to make sure everybody was signing these forms, because a lot of us were consenting to all of this unknowingly, because actually we don't really get a choice. You can't say no to this, and people don't understand that. Why'd you do that? We can't say no. To me, I always felt like there was a threat of death, so I never said no to anything. I didn't want to die, and that's all the way. That can be all the way back from the playroom. You don't say no. You don't rise up against them. That's a threat of death.
So is there an actual moment where they put a contract in front of you and say, "Here, sign"?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
I did it to other people. I asked them to sign papers.
And
There's papers everywhere.
um, did these contracts like specify a certain amount of years you're going to be working for
Of
these
course.
organizations? Okay.
You even signed. A lot of us even signed to be coded for reentry. I know that was in my service record. I consented to be coded for reentry. Means once I got sent back to Earth, they could come and get me whenever they needed me. I was coded for reentry. So a lot of people were signing up for that. So
And
if
so,
somebody's saying that they're getting taken, I'm not saying everybody, but I'm saying you may have signed up for that unknowingly, not, you know, maybe not having an option to say no.
well, so when you describe this reentry, does that mean they can come and take you for another 20-year career return program, or is these just short-term missions?
Both, whatever they need.
Right. Right. And did
But
they ever promise you extra money for signing up for these terms?
no,
Wow.
we don't promise anybody anything. Like it's just, what I found, it was really easy because when I was doing the profiling work, there was a lot. They're taking voluntary recruits now. So some of these volunteers were so excited to be, up on Mars. They'd sign anything. It could be anything, and they would sign. I had no problem, getting them to sign any paperwork because they were so excited to be part of this huge whatever. They had no idea what they didn't get tortured like us, which is not fair. Well, but they're just volunteering and going up.
Did you ever go on the surface of Mars?
Yes.
Okay, what did you experience?
I was taken to one of the ruins there with one of the there was an ambassador there. I remember his last name. Um, he had me something. I don't know how I could be connected to these ruins. He felt like I could help him. So when I went to these ruins, it was like, I don't know, you could see it like underneath the ground, and it was still energized. I don't know why he showed me that, but actually he was really nice. I didn't find him to be like, I wasn't afraid of him. He was the ambassador there, but he was also part of the antiquities division.
Was it Jimmy
He
Payne?
wasn't, no,
He
no.
says he worked with on the pyramids of Mars, but um, so,
Oh,
so okay, go ahead.
I forgot where I was going.
Well, maybe
So
can you describe what these pyramids actually look like?
yeah, it was totally underground. I didn't, the whole
Oh,
top of it was totally underground. So you could barely see it there. Um, And there must have been, I don't know why he wanted me there. He picked me specifically to go there. And what I know now is because I had a past life as a Zeta, and I was one of their shamans. This is like in the ancient past when they had religion. So I have some type of latent ability or, connection to some type of technology that I didn't know. Wasn't really aware of.
All right. So at these I guess pyramids or these structures, what was your job or duty? What did you do there?
I didn't have a job. He just wanted me to be there to see what I could do, if anything
Oh,
connected to me.
okay.
They don't know what to do with them. They don't know what to do with the pyramids. They a lot of times it seems like, from what I've seen being up there, they act like they know more than they do. They're still doing a lot of research on a lot of these things, because some of these things are going to be hard to, figure out. They just are. Some of these are ancient technology.
Okay. And were you able to interpret anything for him that you could share with us now?
I don't remember what I don't remember. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. No, I don't
Okay.
remember.
Okay. So when you were embedded with, I'm guessing this is still MDF. Did they give you like a standard uniform and train you also for combat?
Um, I was trained for combat when I was younger.
Oh,
When
okay.
I was a beta tracker, I was already doing that. Actually, this is something really interesting. They have one, and they use this assessment, and it's in your guys' file. Well, I'm going to say a lot of assets. I don't know which faction you were in, but um, in the files that I was looking through, they use this program called Death Strike, and they use it for assessments for certain super soldiers, and it's a different intervals, and it's a VR, but it's different intervals of how quickly you can clear a space. And if you know what I mean by clear a space, like how quickly, and it's like I think it was like 34 seconds, 2 minutes, or 10 minutes, because that's the maximum amount of time you're allowed, is the 10 minutes to complete a mission, anyways. So, and they give you a score based on that in your file, and that either it looks good or it looks bad.
Okay. So this is called Death Streak,
Death Strike.
Death Strike. And is this actually like in a trip chair or like a virtual reality?
It's just a VR, and it's only for
Okay.
assessments. That's it. It's not nothing that they're trying to program people with. It's just basically to see, how good of a soldier you are.
And do you know what score you got on Death Strike?
68.
Okay, six. Is that good? Is that a good score?
Eh, it's
Okay.
you know.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, did the personnel speak English or German during your time on the MDF, or was it both?
I only remember English, but I can't say for sure if anybody else was speaking any other languages.
Okay. And were there mostly Americans embedded into your group there, or is it all people from all over the world?
All over.
Okay.
All over.
All right. Okay. And did they ever embed any super soldiers into your unit, or did you ever have any interactions?
The only time I saw them is we're on the medical satellite station when they were getting augments, and I had to get their signature.
Okay. And can you confirm if they're like 7 to 8 to 9 foot tall?
They didn't seem that huge to me, but
Okay.
maybe because I was used to seeing them. I don't know. I don't want to say
Okay.
I know for sure if they were that huge.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
there's
remember
different
seeing
groups
them that like
like
that.
Kruger is usually doing all the genetic enhancing like that. But okay, let's see here. So your uniform, did you have like an American flag patch?
No, and I want to say I had a different uniform in corporate, because the uniform they had me do is I was dressed like somebody you would see in like a business office, because that's the impression they wanted to give people, to make them more relaxed when they came into the room. And because I had to profile them correctly. So if they're nervous or you look different, or it's almost like getting into something in their subconscious of something that they would be familiar with. So once they come in the room, they felt, really comfortable being around me. I was very unassuming. They wouldn't, be afraid to tell me, everything they needed to tell me. And also they also wanted me to see if anybody would be a challenge to the status quo of MDF. That meant if I could detect anything in somebody where they would not follow orders completely, I had to put that in their file.
Oh wow. Um, did it ever come across your own mind not to follow orders?
Of course. Actually, um, I want to say I got demoted after some years, and it was because I something happened to me, and this was really distressing. It was really setting a lot of panic for me. I was having okay, so I'm on Mars doing this profiling work, by myself, and I start having memories of another life. And and it was really freaking me out because it felt so real. I could see, people, and I could see myself. And what I was having is memories of my original self. And it totally freaked me out. I started to get really anxious. I wasn't doing well in my job. And one day I even, went into my superior's office and searched his room just for a sign of something to tell me, what was going on, what was wrong with me. I wasn't like everybody else. Something was wrong with me. And so my programming was breaking down because I was starting to have memories of myself. And I got demoted because I couldn't push my emotions down anymore to be good at my job. And they kind of pushed me out to do like kind of like paperwork, with incoming ships, or any place where they needed just kind of like paper shufflers, kind of thing. um Kind of just doing admin work, measuring out cargo, signing, stuff was coming in, I'd sign for that, sign for this. So I ended up getting demoted because of that situation.
How many years total were you on Mars,
20
do you think? Okay.
19 to
And
39.
okay, during your time there, did they tell you planet Earth was destroyed and that you're the last survivors of humanity?
They said it blew up.
Okay. And did everybody believe it?
Yeah.
Did you believe it?
Well, I did at first, but then I started to have strange memories, and like I said, my programming broke down, and I was kind of like an embarrassment to them because I was in corporate, and that's not supposed to happen to somebody in corporate. We're supposed to be like highly trained, you know, for everything, and that's why they give us those
So
positions.
so when you broke down, they didn't sign you up for another one? Another 20-year?
Not that, well, I was coded for reentry in my
Okay.
service record. It's coded for reentry. My actual
Okay.
my asset category or classification is called intelligence scribe, and I'm in special sector linguistics and retrieval. There was one point that I was transferred to enemy engagement processes, but I don't remember a lot of work from there. But and I don't remember I was there for a long time.
So, they're telling people planet Earth was destroyed in a cobalt bomb in 19, I think 52 or 54, somewhere around there. It was right around the period where the Germans they already got nuclear. The Germans in Antarctica got nuclear weapons, and they tested it on a ship right near where the Americans were testing a nuclear weapon. And they let's hear what happened. Okay, they filmed it and they handed it to the copies of the film to some of the world's leaders just to make sure they don't try to cover it up and like pretend it wasn't the Germans.
Oh,
And so
okay.
yeah, so at that point there was a timeline where humanity the world leaders told the whole world that the Germans are still down in Antarctica and that we need to go get them with these new nuclear weapons, and that's when the cobalt bomb. But that's another alternate reality. And so
Okay.
what I think they're doing is taking pictures from this other alternate reality and showing their teammates on this reality, their crew members. But
Okay. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, here we go. Great question from a Detroiter. Is there any way of breaking these contracts?
Um. Well. Okay. Let me talk about this since I know a little bit about this. Because I've actually talked to. Okay. So when I'm under hypnosis and I'm hosting, I can also speak to handlers. And so when you're returned to Earth, there is a special program called Aftercare that I don't want to say every asset because I'm not positive on that, but many assets are assigned to the Aftercare program. And that's a special sector that um, monitors the care and control of this asset, which means they have to keep you under control, and they use various methods to do that. So what they're doing is creating a lot of illness, a lot of pain, a lot of, destruction in your life. And they can do it just by being in a remote position because there's a lot of things still inside you that they can just push buttons and totally mess you up and mess your body up. There's a couple of different machines that they use that are destroying some of these assets' lives. And trust me, you'll never find a cure, and you're never going to find the origin to these illnesses, because it's not an illness, it's intervention based on this technology. One of this machines is called the wasp, and the wasp is something they do to, it completely inundates your chakras, and you will never know how it feels to be completely misaligned, and your entire, nothing in your body is going to work right. No doctor is going to find a cure for this. So, and it's the wasp. And there's another machine that they use called the Green Devil. And this is something that they can use. And it's a very manipulative technology, because it floods your body with adrenaline. So you could be in a normal situation and totally go into panic mode and look like you're psychotic. And so especially if you're living a normal life and you find yourself in a professional job or something, they can flood if you start to get close to any memories, they will flood your body with this adrenaline, and you will just, it's fight or flight, and you're ready to run or start screaming or run away from
Well,
people in order to get away, but there's
Olivia,
nothing to get away from. It's a machine.
Olivia, years ago, when I first realized that I was involved in these projects back in 2005, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. You have to read my book if you want to find out about it. But there was an incident in which I was being targeted in multiple ways, not just orbs showing up, needle marks, cut marks, and all this stuff. But I got to a point where I had this situation where I had this paralysis and I couldn't move. And um, they took me to the hospital and they couldn't figure out what's wrong with me. So they just labeled me psychotic, and they charged me $25,000. They released me,
It's the
but
wasp. That sounds like the wasp.
I'm thinking I must have got triggered, or I was really close to getting my memories back, and they wanted to turn that on. But additionally, I want to mention I've also had this issue where for many, many years, I don't know if you call it autoimmunity or digestion issues, just I'm constant pain all the time. And so,
That's from
and
the
that,
handler. They specifically said that they caused that type of issue. So when the handler spoke through me, um, it's saying that we need you to go back to sleep. You can't be, gathering your memory. They call it journeying towards memories. So I peeked over his shoulder, and when I'm under hypnosis and I'm in that deep state of consciousness, I don't know if it's called astral traveling, but it also reminds me of being in the ghost dimension. But so I was there where my handler was, and it's a remote handler. So a lot of these handlers, and their cover is an insurance company. Actually, they're based under an insurance company, so it actually makes a lot of sense when they call it Aftercare, because they push it under an insurance company. You'll never know. So I could look over his shoulder, and he's a telepath. These people are trained. There's actually a handler division. They train these people to do this, just like they trained us. They train them to be like this. And I could see over his shoulder, and he could hear me, and I could hear him, because he's a telepath. And what he said is, he was typing that he said that the asset is combative, talking about me, because I was trying to see what he was doing, and that I was presenting with ill intentions, in which I wasn't. I was just, looking towards my memories, trying to figure out things, and that he was looking at the next steps and what he would have to do. And he was planning on, doing something to my spleen and causing tremors in my body. He could input that right into his computer, and he said, all I have to do is push a button. That's it. And so they're very arrogant. They do have us under control in terms of our health. They can affect our health very much. And like I said, you won't be able to go to a doctor and find a cure for some of these, because some of these are machines. There's still implants left in our body, and the nanotechnology that's going to affect us for the rest of our lives. And
well, what about like say detox, like zeolites, or I don't know.
they say go
Right
ahead
now
and
I'm
try
doing
it.
juicing with cilantro, but what do you
Yeah,
think?
they say try it, because I've asked them. They said go ahead and try it, and we asked them how to cut the
Yeah.
contracts. They said go
Who,
ahead and try it, but you're going to be cutting layers and layers of contracts for the rest of your life. They said go ahead and try
who
it.
is telling you this?
The handlers.
Oh, so
I can
so
speak
the
if I'm hosting. I can speak to a handler directly, because they're a telepaths,
okay.
and so
So
it's a lot of ego, it's a lot of arrogance, but that's how they're trained. And they say that it doesn't matter what we say. Nobody's going to believe us anyway. It doesn't. You can go to any doctor, they're not going to find a cure. So why don't you go back to sleep and stop talking about this kind of stuff, kind of thing. And they're just going to continue to do this. And they say that if one thing doesn't work to keep us under control, they have to move to something else. And they said it's going to make you suffer. They said the death is not the goal, though. They're not trying to kill us, they're trying to control us. And they said
Mm.
it's working because a lot of us are under control based on our health. And they said it's a sign because a lot of us assets have health conditions. And they said that's because of them, because of what they have to do in order to keep us under control.
Okay, well, I interviewed this Eric Adamo, and he mentioned that as a super soldier, they were injecting them with monoatomic mercury solutions, which would allow them to shapeshift for a temporary period of time. And the after effect of this is destroying their bodies, and they want basically the super soldiers to sort of waste away for the rest of their life. The thing is, they don't even need to use these solutions. They could use other compounds, but they just want to just make us all sick. So
It keeps you under control, but they could also make you unsick at any time.
well, like yeah,
Because some of us are
they have
quoted
to
for
pay us
reentry.
too, but
They can, because they're going to need us. Some of us have signed up to be used again at some point, so they can't kill you because that's a lot of money to waste. And they even say
Okay.
that's not the goal. It's the goal is control.
Here's a question from Hanny. Are there signals from satellites that are interfacing with these femtonites or nanobots?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see here. Let's go on. I guess are we done with the aftercare program?
Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay. So let's see here. We've got corporate spy.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about some of my alters in past lives and how that tied into it.
Okay.
So like I said, a lot of us have taken like dark roles in our lives, and sometimes we don't remember, sometimes we do. I can just remember some of them. And especially under hypnosis, I can gather quite a bit of information from them. So some of the reasons why I was chosen for the programs and they thought I would be good for certain programs because of my past lives. And some of those lives included a life where I was a medium during the Inquisition, and I was killed during that incarnation as a witch. And I wasn't like classically burned at the stake or anything like that. What they did do though is a lot of torture, and I died on being hung from ropes. And what is interesting is that in the playroom, because of the hypnosis that I was doing with the psychiatrist, they were able to gather this information and how best to seal that trauma in me. They were using some of the same tactics. How I died in past lives is what they were using in the playroom to seal that trauma. So they would hang me from ropes in the playroom, just like how I was hung from ropes in my life during the Inquisition. And that's how I died. I actually died of dehydration, I think, and starvation. After they took me into the cell, and they tortured us for a while, me especially. I was tortured, but there was another life. It was actually, I was a male in this past life, and he was someone that was hurting people, maybe assaulting them and everything. And he was actually being hosted himself by an entity called Asmodeus. And this entity is very old, and he also requires like some type of sacrifice. So this part of me, in a past was kind of stuck in that loop. It was a male. So they thought that this could be used in the programs as well. Somebody that's a little bit, I don't want to say like sociopathic maybe, but this was in the 1700s. But somebody, if they were here now, they would be called like a sociopath, something like that. Another life that was used is when I was a slave in Egypt, and I actually died from, the same thing, exhaustion, because we were being forced to complete something they called flash pyramids. And it was done by a group of people we called the dog people. And it was like they were such a small group, but they could command the entire thousands of us at one time to just work. All we did was work, and we never had any food, we never had water, and we would just, as we died, they would just kind of brush us away, and then new workers would come. It was a constant drone of that. So that was another life that they utilized for the programs. They saw me as I was already a slave before, and I still had that inside my cells. Like the memory is still in your cells of being in that experience of being a slave and knowing what it was like to be completely controlled. So I could have fall back into that so easily in the program. And one other life that I had, which is really, to me, it's really an important life, is as a mantid, a pastor parallel life as a mantid. And I know a lot of people think, or maybe have heard that some of these beings can be, really sneaky or doing bad things, ill intentions, that kind of thing. But from what I know of our people, we just want to live. We want to be left alone. Our planet, in terms of the language of it, it's called poor meal, but that's only the way that I can translate it in English because we only speak in vibrational bursts. So it's hard to translate, but that's how I translate it, as poor meal. And it has two suns. But so when we're living on this planet, we just, over the years, so many people have come there and tried to take things from us, and only because we have this phosphorescent algae that grows all over the planet. And that's how we have sustained ourselves over all these millions of years. We've even created a religion around it. We call our religion, we call our God Liquid Light Father. And it's because of this phosphorescent algae that sustained us. We've built this up around it. And we very much revere this thing because it feeds us and it gives us light in our caves and our caverns. And we've had to be pushed so far back and so far under, we're underground, we're in caverns everywhere because, different races keep coming there and trying to take what we have. There's metals in the caves that they want. We're always at kind of like in, butting heads with particular groups. There was a human group that came and they wanted to colonize and mine and get resources. And when I was looking in this human's head, all I can see was advance and destroy. That's all they wanted. That was their program was running, is they were supposed to try to kill us. And I could tell that's what they wanted to do. And we can't let that happen. I mean, we have kids, we have families back in there. We're not bothering anybody. And they're literally there to destroy us. And they see us as insects. And they're trying to kill us. And actually, all we want to do is help people. We're trying to get to a place where we can be almost like an oversoul in a helping position. We're like a hive mind. So we want to stay together and we want to be like one big unit in order to help other people. And it makes us afraid if we think we're going to get pulled away from there. Like when I'm manted, the scariest thing I can think of is being alone and not being connected to my people and not having their thoughts in my head and my thoughts in their head. It's very terrifying to not have that. So that's something that kind of we're afraid of, is to be pulled apart from each other. And we feel like this intrusion, these humans, that's what they're trying to do. They're literally trying to kill us all. So that's another reason why they chose me, is because some of these lives as being different races, and especially a mantid race, is very unemotional, but not really, because they're still spiritual, but their emotions are not on their face, obviously, because they don't speak. They don't use their mouths to speak. They use vibrational bursts. So it's also another way to just program and kind of connect me to different areas when I was in the playroom.
Oh, wow. Okay, I want to share my screen. I want to show you something that okay, good. It's actually going to work. Okay, can you see my all right.
Yes.
So here's some guy in China took a picture of this mantis. So you can take what you get from that, but some ads. Okay. But all right, well, I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks a little different because there was, so when I'm a mantid, I'm what they call a scout. So I kind of I'm almost like a lookout. Like I go out on the caverns on top of the hill and keep an eye on these soldiers because I know what they're gonna do. They constantly do this. Like they don't stop. They're relentless. So they can't stop. I don't know what it is in their mind. There's a program. They won't stop trying to kill us. So there was one that almost got close and I couldn't let that happen. And so I had to hurt him. But when I was on top of him, he said that I was a grasshopper. And I didn't know what a grasshopper was as a mantid. I was like, am I a grasshopper? But that's what, in his mind, what he saw was grasshopper when he looked at me. And maybe, I guess I did look a little bit like a grasshopper, and we have like a protruding belly because we store some of that algae and we don't have to eat all the time. It stays in there. So it kind of sustains us.
Yeah. So, you think Jiminy Cricket is real?
I don't know.
Okay. 'Cause I've actually heard some really weird clicking sounds in my house, and I'm pretty sure there's mantis around. But anyway, send
Yeah,
them
so
right
they're
now.
not all of them are as bad as people say.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, shall we move on to
Yes.
another question?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see here what we got here. We can do. We've got two topics: corporate spy and the Gray Mouse program. Which one would you like to go to?
I can kind of mix them. Cuz
Okay.
they're mixed.
Okay.
Okay, so I was going to talk about my alters and how I kind of was able to kind of figure these out. So, okay, so for my whole life I kind of been I feel like I've always been terrified, and this is weird to say because now I host entities, but terrified of anything like demonic or possession, like any type of like. I feel like they probably use some type of like possession movie during some of my programming. Terrified of it, like always afraid of that. I always saw like in my mind. I thought I was seeing paranormal things my whole life instead of space program things. I attributed it to the paranormal. I thought everything was demons. I thought everything was ghosts. And I always saw this little girl in my dreams, in my vision. She would come in my mind, and she always looked like a little possessed girl. And she would have on a dirty nightgown, dirty face, and you couldn't see her face because her hair was always in her face. And like, I was just terrified of her. And from what I found out now, I know that it's an altar. And this is a survival altar. And that's why she's so terrifying. It's because she is like the darkest thing inside me, because she has to be like that in order to protect herself. This altar would only come out in the most extreme situations where I had to survive. That's the only time this would be able to be let out of its prison. This, and what is so strange is some of these altars are so complex, and your mind is almost like a universe on the inside. If you were to see what was going on when they program you, your mind is creating these different worlds and these different universes. This altar itself was so complex, it created its own world. So this little possessed girl, whatever she is, she created a world where she could live. She, something like a little kid would think of as dark, like a dark forest with a cemetery. If you can imagine what you would think of as the scary place when you were a kid, that's what she created in her mind, and that's her world. So that's kind of where she lives, and she's kind of locked in there. She's not able to, be released. Only if I were on the verge of death or to be almost being killed, she would come out in order to, stop, you know, me from dying. But she's one of the, what I consider, like, there's 6 front altars. She's one that's kind of kept locked away. There's a beta tracker altar. I kind of described that earlier. Um, the profiler, she's from Mars. Penelope is a monarch altar. She does a lot of the monarch work, and she kind of really messed up my life for a long time because she took control for more than a few years, where I was this altar and I wasn't able to be my normal self. It was all altar. So she comes with a lot of like sexual trauma, sexual manipulation, that kind of thing. And then there's the gray mouse altar, which it's a really interesting um altar because they created this to be used in corporate espionage. So it's something that is where you have to be, when I look at this altar, I can see her as, she looks like she's gotten dressed in the dark. She's somebody that if she went into somewhere, nobody would notice her. She'd be like one of the invisible people. They could send me into a building. Well, this is actually what they did do. They sent me into a big, huge building, and I was there pretending that I was going to be cleaning the building. And I just looked like a worker. Nobody would ever guess that I was there to do anything other than clean the building, honestly. So this is why it's such an important program, because it's so unassuming. Nobody would guess what I'm there for. And I did it really well. We did that job really well. A lot of us, there was quite a few of us doing the Gray Mouse program when I remember at least 3 other girls doing it. So you just have to get in somewhere, and why they call it the Gray Mouse, you have to be quiet, get in, get out. You don't want to be seen. I mean, it's such a simple program because you are an invisible person. You walk by somebody, they don't even look at you. For some reason, you're just not somebody that would draw attention. And that's how, that's how they're being successful. And actually, a lot of the gray mouse is run by Kruger. So they have a lot of gray mice in their program. So they're sending, because they think they're, in my opinion, I don't have a lot of good thoughts about it, because when I worked for them, it was always under a threat of death. They had no respect for women. They allowed sexual assault of women and their assets in that program.
Oh, we're talking about Kruger right now.
Yes. So I don't have a lot of good thoughts, or, I didn't feel very respected doing the most dangerous work I could do. I felt more nervous about doing corporate espionage work than any other work I did. I always felt like I was on the verge of death and doing that for some reason. There's so much power, there's so much money, and this is all on Earth programs. They don't have us do a lot of stuff off planet, because they use, different type of programs for that, super soldiers and things like that. They use that. We're doing more like the corporate work, and we're going there to change information, steal information, put more information. It's all doing all like, they also have a hacker unit, but I don't really get into that. They have a special unit that does that work. I'm more the person that goes in, and if I have to steal something, I can. They have us do a lot of like building cleaning, going to parties as servers to get information from politicians, things like that.
So tell us, what are some of the places you infiltrated? Like what companies or anything that the public might know about?
I don't want to give like names. I can just give basic information. There's like large media companies, politicians, things like that.
Okay.
There's some. I mean, there's even politicians overseas that they're involved with too. In Cambodia, there's places in Cambodia that they have us work.
Okay. And what kind of data or research were you recovering from these people?
Some of it's blackmail. A lot of it's blackmail, actually. Blackmail information. Yeah. Stuff that we could blackmail other people with, or to take, back something they might have been blackmailing people with. It's a lot of underhanded work.
Did Kruger ever pay you for that?
No.
Okay.
It was just a threat of death whenever I worked for them.
Okay, let's see. Questions from the audience. Anybody here have some? Let's see if good questions. Let's hear. So, we can go to this one. How do we break free from? I don't know if you break free. It's more like you have to bring them together.
Yes, I can talk about my integration. Yes, I'm going to talk about my integration.
Yeah. So, Linda. Thank you, Linda.
Okay, so this was a few years ago, is when I started really becoming very. I had so many memories flooding in. This is a few years ago. I'm going to say 2018. So many memories flooding in. It was because I got a job that was just like the job I had on Mars, and I didn't know it. I got this new job. I was doing a lot of human resources type work, the same thing I was doing on Mars, but something about it, like just stepping into the office every day and doing the work, I started to be in panic mode. I was starting to get a lot of anxiety. I was starting to get stressed out. I was having weird memories coming back. I was terrified of everything. I was scared of this and scared of that. I was feeling entities coming towards me. It was just, everything was going wrong in my life, and I couldn't figure out why. And now I know it was because, and I was getting a lot of V2K at that time. And I know it was V2K because it was just totally outrageous things that I would never think of. And it would be just when you were like cooking dinner or sitting on the couch or anything. I knew it was V2K. One of the things that the V2K said, it told me that I was 100% corporated material. And I knew it didn't come from me because I didn't know if corporated was the correct word. So I'm like, why would I make that up in my head? And I knew, I was like, and I was just awake when these happen. They don't do it when I'm sleeping. It's not a dream. I don't want people to think it's dreams. These are actual machines that they're using to put this information in my head and make me feel like, and good. I don't want to say it's a blessing, but like a good thing is I thought it was paranormal. And I thought, these were demons coming to get me. And I was afraid of demons for a long time. And I was just like, I think I was just totally losing it. My memory was gone. I lost 2 months where I couldn't remember what I did. I was doing horribly at work. I couldn't learn anything new. I couldn't read anything. Everything was jumbled. I couldn't maintain any information. I couldn't retain it, anything. I couldn't learn anything new. So this is when I said, something's got to change, and I ended up starting to do hypnosis, and this information was just like flowing out of me, all this information about who I had been and what I had done, and it really gave me like a sense of relief. And that's when really I was starting to get close to I was getting conscious recall all the time, like, information that I had no idea where it came from, especially stuff about my service record, and like there's no way I could know some of these things. Um so when this was starting to come through, the more and actually the more I got memories, and the closer I got to memories, the more V2K they would try, and they would threaten me. And one of the threats, I remember I was just meditating, and it said, if you come any closer, we're going to take everything from you. They literally said that in my mind.
You mean like
And
closer to your memories?
yes, they said, if you come any closer, we're going to take everything from you. And it was a lot of threats all the time. But I couldn't stop it. It's not like I had a control over my memories. They were coming, and I couldn't stop it. So the more memories I had, I would explore it with hypnosis, and I got to a place where I had so much information about what I was doing. It was just it didn't stop. Like, I'd get more and more information. But so as I was doing that, I decided, a lot of the healing part of it would be to kind of get a handle on my front altars, because a lot of them had taken over for certain parts of my life, for since however long I've had them, since I was 7 years old. So there's different parts of my life where I can look back now and say that was definitely all altar based on my behavior and my lack of awareness of what I was doing in some of those, times, that it was all altar. So how I integrated them is I actually, under hypnosis, I pretty much asked them, it's could they go into retirement and go to sleep. And even the ones that kind of fought back, like, my survival altar, some of those kind of like scarier ones, or ones that kind of, even the gray mouse, she didn't want to go under. But in the end, these are all pieces of me. And when I asked them to do that, they ended up agreeing, and they all rallied together for me and decided to do this because it was the best thing for me and my higher self, is to go to sleep so I could be my original self. And they agreed to it. They went to sleep for me, and I don't have them like taking control anymore. But that's where you have to start your healing process, because then you have to relearn who you are. You have to go, because we don't, a lot of us don't know or don't remember our original selves, or who we were supposed to be before we were implanted with a lot of these altars. So it takes a lot of healing for me to relearn who I was supposed to be in my original self. And that's how I continue it, is to kind of keep learning who I am. And I had a total personality change. Everything about me is different after integrating altars.
Wow. Oh, here's a good question. How about this one? Did you ever find a hypnotherapist who deals with specifically secret space program, DID, probably SRA too?
Yeah, I've actually used a few different practitioners, and they were all great in their own way. So I did find
Yeah.
a few that
I,
actually were very good at this.
I remember one time, one of my first experiences with hypnotherapist, I was trying to tell this lady that I was getting needle marks. I wanted to find out what was going on. Instead, she regressed me to forget about it because it was making me upset. She wanted me to stop being upset.
And we don't want that. I want to, for me, I want to know about everything. I don't care how dark it was, how sad it was, how traumatic. I need the truth. I need to know. And I think the truth is really going to help myself, continue to help myself, and help other people if I can keep getting it.
Yeah. Here's something from Fritz Springmeier, I think it is. But in his book, okay, I don't know what the wait. How to detect okay, I'm trying to remember. But he was talking about altars here, but are you familiar with any of these terms like core, gems, executive committee, false trinity, etc.? Any of these ring a bell to
Mm,
you?
I mean, demons use false trinity stuff, but that's just, they use that for fun.
Okay. So what these people are doing, I guess they think this is like an art form for them, like they're rebuilding somebody and creating a new creation in their own image by doing all this
Mm,
trauma. Yes. Okay.
okay.
In their mind, anyway. Okay, so let's see here. Where else? I don't know. I guess we're probably getting near the end of this.
Okay.
Was there anything else we need to go over? How
I
about
think we went over the main things that we wanted to.
um? Oh, I had a few more questions about Mars. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Uh, let's see here. Did you ever visit New Warburg or New Berlin on Mars?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. Did you encounter any advanced technology while you're on Mars or on the moon that you could share with us that you haven't shared anyway? So far, anyway.
The only one I think I talked about it earlier is when they're detecting entity activity. And that's by just measuring the electrical output of portal people. That's
What
the only
about what about healing technology? Did you witness anything like that?
healing technology. No, they're not much
Okay.
into the healing.
Well, I guess if one of their soldiers get blown up, maybe they want to regenerate them.
An
But
agenda-based process. I don't like consider it healing, but yeah.
oh, okay, that's one way to put it. Okay, let's see here. You mentioned something called Sector B
Yeah.
earlier on. What is that?
So they, as far as I can tell, and that they've been able to graph certain parts of the world or our country, and Sector B is like kind of like a Midwest portion where they map it all out to different entities and activity, and that lights up when they can sense, entity kind of activity. They're actually doing scientific experiments on this to they eventually want to harness some of this power that's coming from the dark side, because I mean, whether we can fathom it or not, there's a lot of power there. It's about as powerful as the light, I'm sorry to say. There's a lot of power there. So there, otherwise why would they be searching this out if there wasn't? They would have no need for it.
Okay, great. Well, is there any other final messages you want to share?
Yeah, I did want to say a final message. When I did a session recently, it was a few weeks ago, I hosted it, and like I said, my dad's been dead several years, but he came through for a message, and he gave a message for me and other um survivors of these programs. And what he said was for us to burn it all down. He said to go out and tell everyone what they've done and what they made us do. He wants us to burn the system down by continuing to tell our stories, because there's real strength in words. There's real magic in the words that we're saying. So to continue to tell our stories, because nothing can stop the truth.
When I was 14 years old, I lost the ability to speak. I scorched my vocal cords, and then in my early 20s, I slowly started to repair my voice. I'm assuming whoever did that to me was more than happy to see try to change my timeline trajectory, but here we are. Here we are. So
Yeah. And in
I'm gonna,
whatever dimension he is, now that he's dead, they can
yeah,
see real change and disclosure. So we
yeah.
have to continue telling stories and welcoming new people into the community for disclosure.
Okay, so hopefully you can see that screen. Okay, so go check out her book, Green Mouse. It's only $10. So yeah, and that just came out in October.
Yep.
Okay, and the link is in the video description. So all right. Okay, well, audience members, those who are listening, if you want to put any questions into the comments section of this video, next time we do an interview, we'll go back and review that and see if we bring you back on here again to see if we can get you some more questions answered. So also be sure to subscribe to this channel wherever you may be, but preferably over to Rumble. I'm trying to migrate most of my stuff over there. The goal is that to make basically, I'm hoping one day, okay, I don't want to comment about the censorship issue, but also be sure to go to my website, supersoldiertalk.com. I've got lots of articles posted on there, and also the history of the archive, I guess you want to call it. And go check out my other website, neologicaltech.com. You can get a copy of my book. I'm actually sold out right now, but I'm going to order some more, hopefully tonight after I get off the call. But I'm on back order on these. But yeah, we can discuss more about different, like Mars Defense Force, different programs, and also some of my own experiences you can check out. But anyhow, okay, so there you have it, everybody. Any final comments, Olivia, or shall we hit it?
I think that's it for today. Thank you for having
Okay.
me.
And audience members, thank you. I know you're still asking more questions, but let's just I think we're just going to call it a night here, because I think we got somebody's asking about ICC operations. I guess, Olivia, you probably never worked with ICC.
Not that I can remember.
Yeah. Okay. Were you ever on IAPTIS?
Not. It doesn't sound familiar.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for now. So thank you all.
All right. Thank you.
And you just go ahead and stay on. I'm going to hit this. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.